Welcome to Let's Talk Cardano, presented by the Cardano Foundation. In each episode, we delve deep into the transformative world of blockchain technology. Join us as we explore how blockchain is reshaping industries from finance to supply chain and talk with some of the key pioneers at the forefront of this revolution. All right here on Let's Talk Cardano.
In this episode of Let's Talk Cardano, we speak with Sam Lambert and Theodore Morisis from Palmyra, a platform transforming global trade. They share how transparent supply chains and easier market access are helping producers in emerging markets connect with buyers and grow their businesses.
So welcome back to Let's Talk Cardano. I am Jacob, and today we're exploring how blockchain is being applied in global trade. Joining me are Theo and Sam, the founders of Palmyra, which is a platform built on Cardano that helps commodity producers connect, transact, and settle trade in a more efficient way. So in this session, we'll discuss a few things, basically what Palmyra is, how it works, how it empowers businesses in emerging markets. So Sam, Theodore, welcome in.
Thanks, Jacob.
Yeah, it's nice to have you both here.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, it's great to have you. So can we start with brief introductions on yourself and basically what led to the creation of Palmyra? Let's start with you, Sam.
Sure. Thanks, Jacob. So quickly, my name's Sam, and alongside Theo, we're one of the co-founders of Zengate Global, and we're the company building the Palmyra ecosystem. Really excited to be here. So a little bit about myself. I'm a former management consultant. I worked on several large-scale projects with some of the biggest banks, insurers, and regulators all around the world. And from academic background, I studied economics and statistics, and really what piqued my interest in terms of Palmyra and why I work on it today is I'm really interested around systems and technologies, communities and international trade. And thankfully, the work that we do is really at the intersection of all of that. So today, along with Theo, I get to work with some incredible people. Also have the fortunate to be able to work on stuff that I really care about that has a positive impact on the world. And really excited to be here to talk about blockchain, about supply chains and trade and the solutions that we've been working on.
Thanks, Sam. Over to you, Theo.
Yeah, of course. Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Theodore. I'm one of the co-founders and the director of business development. My background is actually in the food industry, where I worked for many, many years as a chef. At some point managing, 250 people. And one of my main passions was farm to table. And when I joined Cardano back in 2017, from a community member, became a staple operator, Cardano ambassador, content creator, because of that vision that Charles had back in the days, bank the unbanked and make sure that, we give everyone the same financial opportunities. Through blockchain. And over the past 3 years, I had the blessing to actually be able to combine my passion for food and my experience and also my passion for Cardano, working together with Sam, Dan, and the rest of the team on Zengate, where we're now, I'm in actually direct conversations with producers, with co-ops, all the way to different government officials about our traceability solutions and how we can actually empower them so they can have global access to markets.
Awesome. Sounds super interesting. Well, thanks both for the introductions. I'm curious, was there a moment when you realized that something like Palmyra needed to exist, or what problem are you aiming to solve in global trade?
Yeah, I'm happy to jump into that and maybe answer the first part of that question. And then I might hand over to Theo after to answer, the specifics of problem we're looking to solve. So all of the different founders came from quite different backgrounds. At least on Dan's side, he had spent a number of years working directly with Charles in the business development function of IOG, and he had spent several years working in emerging markets. And he got to see firsthand the gaps in terms of technologies, market access, and that's really where I believe the root of that inspiration came from in terms of, pairing blockchain technology alongside other technologies to give access to people where access was not available. And that's really what inspired him and sort of inspired me as well through my conversations with him. On a personal note, at least, one of the big projects I got to work on was building the first neobank, fintech, and blockchain native bank out of the Philippines. And this was a project that I had done with Oliver Wyman, which is where I was working at the time. And I think the biggest realization I had there was many of the different farmers and the community members that were looking to get access to financial services didn't even have anything like legitimate identities. They weren't able to easily access the typical rails and the typical technologies that, someone like me who had grown up in Australia had access to. And that was the moment I think it clicked for me that, wow, there's still a huge gap, even in countries like the Philippines, who are extremely digitally savvy and digitally native. There were still these incredibly large gaps. So for us, those were sort of the starting points. And just to close out this thought, like what we're working on today, and I'm sure we'll sort of dive into in more detail, isn't exactly what we started on initially. And whilst the core mission stays the exact same, which is around access, around traceability and transparency across commodity supply chains, we've taken many different approaches and finally landed on what we believe is the right path forward. But really at the core, it's been around access, it's been around inclusiveness and opportunity, sort of empowerment for these communities and these supply chains. So that's really what piqued my interest, and that's what continues to pique my interest today. So maybe I'll hand over to Theo to talk a little bit more about what we're actually solving today.
Yeah, of course. I guess if I were to just quickly identify the global challenges and just mention them quickly, in most cases, with the different conversations that we've had and we're having with farmers around the world, lack of origin is actually a very, very big problem that we've identified. Market access, like Sam mentioned, fair prices, and at the same time, adulteration in many, many cases in certain products such as honey, for example, or olive oil. And of course, in some cases, there's, we have the intermediaries where, these are some of the most common challenges that farmers are facing around the world. Now, as a company, we have two North Stars. And the first one is to actually empower producers around the world and give everyone the same opportunities, the same choices, if you will, so they can actually, do their business. We've started with trace and trade, and, on our roadmap, we also have the finance and insurance bit where we're going to be also providing to them as different options. At the same time, our second North Star is on the other side of the value chain where we're talking about the consumers. We know that the consumer behavior has shifted over the past 5 years. People want to know what they consume. And in order for us to achieve that, we're building an ecosystem where we essentially digitize every layer of the value chain. So as the end result, the consumers can actually scan a QR code that they will find on the products at the grocery store, and they're actually going to be able to have all the information from harvest all the way to packaging, to logistics and distribution. So when a product, for example, says it's ethical and it's sustainable, they can actually show and see the proof and the data of all the existing data. And of course, that is all on the Cardano blockchain.
Sounds awesome. And I'm looking forward to diving into this a bit deeper with you guys. I think that gives us all a good sense of the motivation for building such a platform. And I want to get a bit deeper into how the platform actually works in practice. Oftentimes, I personally find that explanations of blockchain projects can be kind of complicated, maybe complex for some people to understand for jargon. So I'd like to start with a very simple explanation of the Palmyra platform just for a general audience. Firstly, how would you describe Palmyra to, let's say, a 10-year-old? And secondly, how does the Palmyra platform work in a concise way? Like, can you walk us through how, for instance, a simple transaction would work on your platform?
No, thank you. That's a great question. So the simple explanation is Palmyra is focused on increasing transparency and opening up market access for commodity markets around the world. And really what this means is that we care about traceability and tracking data across our supply chains, but also at the same time ensuring that trade can happen really easily so that buyers and producers can connect directly and transact easily, regardless of where they are around the world. And in terms of how we're achieving this today, we've got 3 different products that we've launched. And if we just start at the very start of the supply chain, that's really where the journey begins. So we start with Palmyra Pro, and this is where we work directly on the ground with farmers, with farming cooperatives and aggregators. And really what we care about doing in this stage is tracing data across their supply chains. And really what this means is knowing where the harvest happens, knowing who the farmers, knowing how products are processed, and knowing how they're aggregated up as well. And all of this data is recorded through the Palmyra Pro application, and it's also hashed on chain. So it's put on Cardano in a way which allows the data to stay immutable and accessible in a public way to those that are continuing down that chain. So once the data itself is captured, it can be used for different reasons in different cases, right? We can show where the products are from, how the products have passed through the supply chain, or even extract certain pieces of data to ensure compliance in import or export processes. So when we have that, basically, we get to a point where we have a finished product or a raw commodity that can be traded. And that's where we have the Palmyra platform, which is a B2B marketplace and a market access solution. We're actually in the middle of integrating that into Palmyra Pro, so it's even more seamless. But really the goal here is that producers can meet with buyers and directly transact with each other. And they're able to find different places to source from directly, where the products are fully traceable, they're ethical, and all of the data that you would need backing it up around the quality assurance and the standards that you're after is in one place. So that's how you actually transact and do business and find suppliers. And then the third thing we recently launched is a consumer-facing product called Palmyra Express, and it's a community-focused storefront. And all we're doing at this stage is we set up a business in Japan as well as in North America, and we act as buyers through the marketplace. So we source directly from the producers. And what we've been able to do is for the community, give them access to unique drops of fully traceable, single origin and ethical products. And we've done some work with Greek olive oil producers, with Sri Lankan tea producers, and about to do something with a fully traced jungle honey producer out of Zambia. And we allow community members to go and purchase these batches using their ADA, or if they want to use their credit cards, we provide a seamless experience for them to actually do that. And it comes with packaging, with QR codes they can scan to see the full journey of where that product's come from. So those three solutions basically work seamlessly with each other. And now we're able to demonstrate how it all begins at the start with the farmers all the way through to the consumer as well. And in the future, there's all sorts of different value addition services that can be built into the platform, whether you're trying to borrow money as a farmer or insure trade, or even trade different commodities that basically trade different commodities that maybe you want to speculate upon. But really our focus today remains on trace and trade, really scaling that up, making sure the system's reliable and works the way we want before we're thinking about expanding into those services.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Sam. So it sounds to me like you guys are, just to reiterate, you're providing basically a place where producers and buyers can go to meet each other and to have new business opportunities, maybe without the middleman there, so that they can transact in a new way. And also providing value for consumers who can go scan the QR code, like you said, and be able to see the full product history. And so I think that the need or the desire for blockchain is pretty clear, because blockchain provides a nice, open, transparent, immutable way so that the consumer can know and trust that the data is really there. But I want to touch a bit more on the value that this actually brings to producers and buyers, because I see the marketplace there and the opening of doors for them and creation of opportunities. But I just want to be a bit more clear on the true value that's really there for producers and buyers. Why should they go on to Palmyra? Maybe Theodore, you could touch on this a bit.
Well, it's not just a matter of, of course, market access is a very, very important thing. And in most cases, what we've identified when we go and we speak to these people in these emerging markets is that they don't even know how to, not how to go online, but, how to list a product somewhere in a website, for example. This is not something that they're used to. So one of the things that we have to make sure that we do is that we actually, break the barriers of the tech side of things where most producers are scared about. So we have to make sure that we put together something that is very, very easy for them to use, first of all. The other thing is that we actually give them a lot of training on why they need to, use these solutions and what are the different opportunities that they can get by using them in a very, very easy way, though, because again, you don't want to scare them. At the end of the day, what they want and what they care is solutions, is making their daily lives better. From our experience and from everything that we've seen on the ground, the marketplace is a very, very important side of things. But at the same time, being compliant is way more important. And by the time that they become compliant, they can then also use the marketplace. And I think this combination of the different regulations that are coming out now, at the same time as, people actually being able to have this global access to different markets, I think this is what makes them, really wanting to join our ecosystem and use the technology in a way that, they don't even know that they're using blockchain or they don't need to know all these details that for us are very, very important. But for them, they only care about having better livelihoods for themselves, their families, and the people that work for them. So yes, that would be my answer for that question, Jacob.
Yeah, I think that the regulation aspect is super interesting, and I definitely want to touch on that a bit later in this session. But for now, I want to focus a bit more on the blockchain aspect. So I think that the need for blockchain in your platform is crystal clear. But I'm curious why Cardano was chosen as the blockchain of choice. Did Cardano present any advantages over other chains, or what made you specifically choose this blockchain?
I think the first bit, there's two bits. There's the community and the technology. Just to quickly touch on the community bit, it's really just around the alignment around our mission and what we care about, which is around inclusivity. It's around empowering producers and buyers. It very much just from a cultural point of view aligned really well with the original vision of what Cardano was trying to solve. So it just felt like a perfect place. The community really supports us, and we really feel at home when we're building on Cardano. So on the technology side, I recently got the opportunity to participate in some in-person Cardano 2030 product vision workshops in Osaka, in Japan, as well as up in Tokyo. And one of the big things that we were trying to distill in this workshop was one sentence tagline for Cardano. And as a group, we came up with something, don't correct me later on if I'm wrong, but really it was something along the lines of Cardano is the most secure, reliable, and censorship-resistant blockchain for mission-critical applications powering the economies of the future. And that really hit home. And really, for us, we're not a project that prioritizes speed. We prioritize security and reliability, and that's the true value proposition that I think Cardano as a blockchain and as a network provides. And really, when you distilled it down to those really important things, it was a no-brainer for us. It was a no-brainer for us 3 years ago. It's a no-brainer for us today. And when you focus on the security bit and the reliability bit, it's so aligned. We work with governments, we work with large businesses, we work with farmers and small, medium enterprises. And it allows us to go across the entire span of the businesses, the farmers, to the community. And it just works the same. So those were the main reasons why we're building on Cardano, why we're still here, and why we plan to continue developing our solutions within this ecosystem.
That's great to hear. I'm super happy to hear that you guys feel at home on Cardano. I think that's a good word to use. And I'm sure the community is equally grateful to have you guys here. So I read online that you guys have already run a few pilot programs with Palmyra. I want to touch a bit on those. Maybe Theo, could you outline some of the pilots that you guys have already run and some of the takeaways that you guys have learned from those?
Yes, of course, yes. So we're running a pilot right now. Well, we've been running for quite a while in down in Zambia with our partners, Nature's Nectar, and I can let Sam talk about that a little bit more. I will talk about some of the lessons learned, if that's okay, with all the different farmers and producers we're talking to within the different jurisdictions and region we are. Is that they had a lot of common, challenges, as we mentioned earlier. In many places, it's the intermediaries dictating their prices to the farmers, for example. And in other cases, a big problem and challenge has been compliance because of the different regulations, within the European Union, the EUDR, EUDR, and at the same time FDA within the US. At the same time, one of the important things that we realized very quickly is that people cared more about the solutions that we can actually bring to them and how easy it is for them to apply those solutions, to use this technology in their day-to-day operations. And one of our main motto that we have as a company is that we always have to be boots on the ground. It's because we need to actually go and see everything first and actually deeply understand their problems, see how they're producing their products, see their processes, and understand better how to deploy our solutions so we can actually help them grow, help them scale, and at the same time create a better future for their families and also grow their local communities. I know Sam will also speak about the pilots, so I can pass the mic to him as well to give a little bit more information. But to me, working with the farmers, being on the ground and talking to them, this has been one of the biggest experiences, I guess, that I can mention.
Sounds really valuable. You want to touch on that, Sam?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, just to give a little bit more light to the work that we're doing in Zambia. So with Nature's Nectar, we've onboarded over 3,000 farmers, about 30,000 beehive assets being managed within their ecosystem. And really what we've done there with them, and they've been an incredible partner in terms of rolling this technology out, is capturing farmer payments, understanding where their hives are located, and capturing the entire processing workflows that take place within their factory and within their warehousing facilities. And we've been able to achieve end-to-end traceability with them, starting with the farmers out in the field all the way through to the point at which they're ready to export their products. And we've learned an awful lot. And just to maybe go a little bit further on some of the lessons that Theo had just started talking about, one of the big things that we've had to learn is maybe less about the blockchain bit itself. Like, just to touch on the blockchain part, the big lesson has always been around abstracting the blockchain elements within your UX and UI. Our system today, you can hardly see that any blockchain's being used other than when you're looking at the traceability records, and you can open up Cardano scan, you can open up the IPFS records to actually see where the data sits on chain. The other bit has also been something we did know going into the projects, but maybe hadn't seen it firsthand, was how much of a spectrum the digital literacy is on the ground itself. And in many cases, we've seen extremely high adoption where young adults have smartphones and internet connectivity, all the way down to people using phones like the ones that we used in the 2000s, like the Nokia flip phones, and doing their business through there. And so one step further is where they don't have phones and there's no internet connectivity. So we basically need a solution which addresses that. We've opted in for an offline first solution, which allows for the field agents that are going out to make the payments in low coverage or no coverage zones to still collect data and sync it once they're back in a place with internet connectivity. So there's been a few challenges like that we've had to work around. And then probably the final bit has been around data verification, right? One of the big things that people talk about is how do you actually ensure that the data coming through the system and ultimately lives on chain is legitimate data. And we've developed some open source systems and solutions in partnership with Nature's Nectar to ensure that's possible. And one of the big things we use is a combination of verifiable credentials at the field agent level in combination with authentication checks. So these are biometric liveness checks to make sure that the person submitting the data is actually that person that you want it to submit the data, as well as GPS checks as well. So making sure that, if you're supposed to be submitting payment data from Zambia, that you're not seeing it being pinged from Japan, for example, right? Which is where I'm currently doing this session out of. So those are sort of the initial lines of defense that we've been building in. We'll continue to evolve that over time. But those have probably been the key lessons. And maybe just to wrap things up, the big thing has also just been around flexibility within the system and trying not to be dogmatic around how certain processes have worked in the past. And the Nature's Nectar pilot's a great example where we initially built something pretty custom fit for how the workflows operate today. And throughout the process, we've come to alignment that, there's a better way to do it. And really that better way is more flexibility, allowing them to manage data in a different way than maybe they were doing so before, batching different volumes and different batches together to make sure it's export ready as well. So this has worked out really well for us. It sets us up to have a much more scalable, modular and agnostic system. And we're really grateful that we got to work with them to basically come to that conclusion.
Absolutely. I mean, that pilot sounds like an incredibly insightful experience. 3,000 farmers in Zambia is a pretty amazing number. And you said 30,000 beehives, or what was the number there?
Yeah, around 30,000 beehives.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty amazing. I'm looking forward to seeing your next projects and where you go in the world next. So Theodore has touched on regulation a couple times. So I want to quickly discuss that. I'm curious how Palmyra helps with compliance and just the regulatory landscape. And I'm also curious if you're seeing maybe attitudes towards blockchain changing amongst policymakers and enterprises.
I'm going to start. Is that okay?
Yeah.
I guess I'll start with obviously the regulation side of things and the EUDR, the European Deforestation Regulation. And the most important thing to mention there is that one of the main things that they ask is to see proof that, all the products that have been affected by this regulation. They can show proof that, the plots that the farmers obviously producing, they haven't been deforested. And there's a lot of other actual information, batch management level, and a lot of others. I just don't want to bore you with all the details. But the main thing is that essentially what we're doing with Palmyra is that we help farmers capture all that data through their phone in a very, very easy way, so they can actually be able to provide that to the regulators when the time comes for them to export their products in a very, very easy and seamless way, as we mentioned, by just a scan of a QR code. The regulators, people at the customs, will be able to actually find all the information needed so they can ensure that the cocoa or coffee or palm oil or any other of the products that have been affected or are going to be affected by the regulation, they can actually showcase all that data and make sure that they're EUDR qualified and they won't get any fines, or in some cases get banned from, working and selling or trading within these markets. So this is a very, very important side of things. And by being able to capture all this data and showcase it in a very easy way, we can actually help those farmers be compliant in a way that, you needed to have, these kind of systems only large enterprises are able to actually put together. So, the small farmers or the micro farmers all the way to the medium-sized farmers, will actually be left out and they won't be able to be compliant. And this is where we started to building our solutions and now deploying it to these markets. And we've seen an amazing receive for it because it's so easy for them to use. And this is one of the biggest questions that we get. How easy it is for us to train our people, how easy it is for us to use it. We're just farmers. We don't know how to use technology. And one of the good things, and Sam mentioned that earlier, is that we've abstracted the blockchain aspects so people don't get confused. We made things very, very easy in the same way that you and I don't know what's going on in the code when we use this software now to record this session. In the same way, they don't need to know anything that will make them confused. They want to care about the solutions, how it works, what it will do for me, and how can I use it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a pretty key aspect to onboarding general users into Web3 is the abstraction layer. So guys, we're almost nearing the end of our session length. A couple more questions for you. I'd like to look forward a bit and touch on your vision and mission for Palmyra. What does success look like in 5 years for your project is question one. And question two is, what impact do you want to have on the world? Maybe Sam, you could touch on this for us.
Yeah, sure. So our 5-year goal as an organization is to have an end-to-end full service ecosystem, and spans from trade to what we're working on today, all the way through on the financing and insurance side. And our vision as an ecosystem is that we get to work with some of the leading partners out there, some of the biggest enterprises, producers, farmer groups, governments, universities, and communities. And that's really what we're striving towards. Another thing as well that we've been caring a lot about is making sure that our solutions are agnostic to different sectors as well. And, within the context of commodities, very much focused on several agricultural commodities today, as well as metals and mineral markets. But I really want to see that expand, not just vertically in terms of new markets, but horizontally as well. So making sure that we're working directly with the farmers all the way through to the consumers as well. And for us, one of the things Theo talks about a lot is we want to see a world where we can go into a supermarket, we can get our phone out and scan a QR code and not just read a blurb about, hey, we're working on this great sustainability initiative, but actually see who you're sourcing from, where you're sourcing from, and how the products that we're consuming were made and processed and created. And really, that's what we want to see. Obviously, from a numbers point of view, we're an impact-focused company, so we want to work with as many farmers as possible. We want to ensure that the market access challenges that they face are being resolved. We want to see trade and transactions taking place, ensuring that ultimately the value flows back to the right people, and making sure that as the value flows back to the farmers and their communities, they're the ones that also benefit from this process as well. So that's really what we care about. We've been on the ground. We've seen the people and the users leveraging our system. We know their names. We know who they are. And we want to make sure that we're having a positive impact on the ground. And that's what makes us happy. That keeps us excited and working on this project.
I think that's a great vision to have. I know I would love to be able to go into the supermarket, scan a QR code, and just have that layer of reassurance about, okay, this product came from this location, it was grown on this date, it's been here, here, and here, and now it's here in the supermarket, and it's going to my table, like a true transparent farm to table vision. And so it's really exciting for me to hear about your vision for the world, and I would really love to see that. So I wish you guys well. Okay, this is the last question is, let's say there's someone listening right now that's interested in Palmyra and maybe wants to start using your platform. They want to start either buying through your platform or selling through your platform. What would be the best way for them to engage with you and to explore working with Palmyra?
So there's right now we have our 2 marketplaces that people could go if they have their own business. They can actually go on the Palmyra platform, the marketplace, the B2B marketplace that we have, and they can actually sign up. Either that if they're a buyer, they can sign up and essentially go and purchase the products that they would like to purchase from the producers that we have from Southeast Asia region, actually from all around the world at this point. At the same time, we have Palmyra.express, which is our B2C marketplace. This is where the community or anybody from Web 2 or Web 3 can actually go and purchase these selected drops that we have at this point. Later on, we're going to be opening it up and making it, in the same way as we have our B2B marketplace. But we have selected drops right now that we do because of the B2C side of things where, there's a lot more logistics that need to happen so people can actually get their products in a timely manner and not directly from producer that, might take a week or 2 depending on where they are in the world. At the same time, if people would like to go, if people are really looking for the compliance side of things, the traceability, this is where they can just go to palmyraecosystem.io and they can just request a demo or book an appointment with us, and we're going to be able to start connecting with them and showcase them and onboard them within the traceability side of things, where the compliance comes in. And that's where all the different farmers and co-ops we're talking to, they're actually getting onboarded through Palmyra Pro or the traceability side of things, and then they can sell their products through the marketplaces that we have.
Awesome. And is the best URL, is it palmyra.app?
So if you go to palmyraecosystem.io, this is where you're going to be able to find all the different products. And, you can click on the B2B side, marketplace, or B2C. But yes, the B2B marketplace is palmyra.app and the B2C is palmyra.express. But if you go to palmyraecosystem.io, you'll be able to find all the different information, different products that we have.
Okay, awesome. Well, I'd say that about does it. Sam, Theodore, thank you guys so much for joining Let's Talk Cardano and for sharing Palmyra's story.
Thank you so much for having us, Jacob.
Thank you so much for having us, Jacob.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's really exciting for me to see how tech like Cardano can bring transparency and access to markets that have often been left behind, and how Palmyra is kind of bridging that gap in the commodities market. For our listeners, if you want to learn more about Palmyra and their work, head to palmyraecosystem.io. And a huge thank you to everyone for tuning in to Let's Talk Cardano. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow and subscribe for more stories, how blockchain is being built and how it's being applied in the real world. We'll see you next time. Thanks so much.
Thank you for joining us on Let's Talk Cardano. For more insights and deep dives into the world of blockchain, don't forget to subscribe and reach us at cardanofoundation.org, where you'll find extra resources and content on all things blockchain. Leave us a review wherever you enjoy podcasts. Follow us on social media and stay tuned for more coming soon.